Well, first of all, there is no more horrific experience than going to battle with the unlimited resources of the federal government. I would admit that I had wandered, and my life was in turmoil. I was angry, frustrated. I was worried about my family. I was worried about the future, and I had occasion, thanks to my very good friend Reverend Randy Coggins, a very dynamic young evangelist, to meet Reverend Franklin Graham, and I had met his father, the great Billy Graham. But I spoke to Franklin Graham, to Reverend Graham, about the trial in my life and what I was going through, and he gave me extraordinary advice. He said, "Look, you need to reaffirm your faith in Jesus Christ. You need to confess your sins and get right with Jesus, and you will see God will never abandon you. He will protect you." And I did exactly as he recommended. I stood with 500 other sinners that day. I got right with God. Reverend Graham really put me on the right path. He sent me a Bible with a number of annotations in it. Every time I get angry or frustrated, which is at least once a day, I go back and read those sections again. That's why I believe at the end of the day, everything will be fine. Most Americans know that I was eroded in a Soviet style show trial. Most Americans know that they decided to investigate and prosecute me long after they knew there was no Russian collusion. And most Americans know that I was squeezed to bear false witness against the president, and I simply refused, which is why I've appealed my case and why I'm optimistic about the future.
All right, that's an awesome story about your faith and coming to it. But as you mentioned, you are going to prison in just a few weeks here. The president has spoken very kindly about you. He even tweeted, no, Roger was a victim of a corrupt and illegal witch hunt, one which will go down as the greatest political crime in history. He can sleep well at night. I got to ask you, Roger, are you sleeping well at night? And because of that, will you ask for a pardon?
Well, I am sleeping well at night, but that's because of my deep and abiding faith in God. I've had no direct communication, certainly no promises or assurances from the president. But at every instance in my case, from the day I was, charged and 29 FBI agents stormed my home at pre-dawn hours, all he clad in SWAT gear and carrying assault weapons, completely unnecessary, to the outrageousness of the bias by the judge in my case, the makeup of the jury, the misconduct of the jury forewoman, who is both a state hater and a Trump hater, as we learned after the trial. The president is supportive in his tweets. And therefore, at the end of the day, I believe that he understands that I have basically used all my legal remedies. There's no holistic legal remedy now for me to avoid prison. It's outrageous that at a time when the Bureau of Prisons and the Justice Department is releasing rapists and murderers and sex criminals because of the fear of infection by COVID. In fact, in the very prison they want to send me to, they have just released a sex offender for fear that he would contract COVID-19, that they want to incarcerate me. Talk about being special treatment, as they have accused me of. Yeah, I've had special treatment at every step of the way, and none of it beneficial. So, I believe the president will do the right thing. I'm praying for it. I haven't been promised anything, but Donald Trump is a man of enormous justice. He believes in fairness, and he has pointed out again and again and again that I was not treated fairly in the process.
Hey, Roger, I get asked this all the time when I go do events. As you can imagine, it's by the liberal media. So I want to ask you a question that I get a lot, especially in light of your faith. I get asked all the time, and I hate the question, and I answer it in my own way. But I want to know what you think of when someone says to you, do you have any regrets? How do you answer that question?
I really don't, because I didn't break the law in 2016. I haven't broken the law since then. Let's recognize that Mueller and his band of thugs gave the full legal proctological examination. They looked at 3 years worth of emails, phone calls, text messages, all the time they were leaking. Roger Stone will be charged with treason. Roger Stone will be charged with espionage. Roger Stone will be charged with conspiracy against the United States, wire fraud, mail fraud, money laundering, anything you want, the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. It doesn't matter. And after going through all of the evidence, they could find no crimes of those sorts. So Andrew Weissmann fabricated this very flimsy lying to Congress charge, and then threw in a phony witness tampering charge as well. And if I hadn't had both hands tied behind my back by the judge and been prohibited every powerful line of defense, or if my trial had taken place in any other jurisdiction, I might have been found not guilty. But I didn't have a fair trial. But I don't regret anything I did. Donald Trump is the only thing that stands between this country and the socialist revolution in our streets. And it is absolutely vital that he be reelected. I thought that he was the right man for the job because of his enormous independence in 2016. I feel even stronger now about 2020. So I have no regrets at all because, in all honesty, as the T-shirt yesterday said, Roger Stone did.
We say, and I ask you to say with us, lift up your voices in this great meeting in the heart of England, and to all the world a message: England lives and marches on.